Hey everyone, it's Nick, and you see the title of this video, so this is going to be different from what I usually do, and hopefully you guys do enjoy it. But before I do get into all that, I do want to congratulate the Phoenix Suns on being 2 wins away from their first ever championship, and for Chris Paul, after 16 years in the league, 2 wins away from being a champion for the first time in his career. But you guys know the deal, and Devin Booker knows it, that if Kobe were here, he would tell him that you still have a job to finish.
Big smile out of you. You're up 2-0. What's the story? Are you not happy, or you're only half happy, or?
Still to be happy about.
You're up 2-0.
Job's not finished. Job finished? I don't think so.
Yes, some things Giannis could have done better, but he played his heart out. I say Game 2 was definitely more to blame on Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday than it is on Giannis. But this isn't a recap video, I just wanted to put that out there. We're here for historical content about the last Phoenix Suns team to make the NBA Finals. And I have mentioned the 93 Suns in my previous 2 videos, but I have yet to really go in depth with them, so here we go. So before we go any further, please remember to like the video. Only takes 1 second, really helps out. And if we get 40 likes on this video, I'll definitely do something like this for the Bucks, either on the last team to make it to the finals or the only Bucks team to ever win the championship. And also, if you could please subscribe for more sports content like this, that'd be much appreciated. It's not just basketball, we do baseball and football in here too, although since the playoffs it's been primarily basketball. But don't worry, we'll get on with baseball and football more once the finals are over. And also, if you could please hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my future uploads, that'd be much appreciated too. So, some people think that Michael Jordan was only going against Charles Barkley in the 93 finals, or they think that he just dominated a bunch of garbage men. Wrong! Okay, so the Phoenix Suns had the best record in the NBA in 1993, which is why Charles Barkley dethroned Michael Jordan as the league MVP that year. And that stopped MJ from three-peating as the MVP, something that only Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, and Larry Bird have ever done. And by the way, the Bulls didn't even have the best record in the Eastern Conference that season, the Knicks did. The Suns and Knicks were the only 2 teams in the NBA in 1993 to win 60-plus games. But we are here to talk about the Phoenix Suns of that season. But if you want to see a video on the 90s Knicks, yeah, I'd be glad to do that. Just let me know in the comments. But, alright, here we go. So, no, it wasn't just Charles Barkley who got that team to be the best offense in the NBA that season. He led the charge, yeah, but for those who didn't know, the season before Barkley joined the team, they were a 53-win team with Jeff Hornacek leading the way with 20 points per game. You may know him as the sharpshooter that played alongside John Stockton and the pedophile in Utah, but before that, he was the leading scorer for the Phoenix Suns. So in the 92 offseason, when Barkley was leading the Dream Team in scoring, he got traded to the Suns for Andrew Lang, Tim Perry, and Jeff Hornacek, and Tim Perry averaged 12.3 points per game for the Suns in 92. In 93, the Suns had 7 players average double figures for that season. The first guy I'm going to talk about is Dan Majerle, aka Thunder Dan. And no, he was not just some spot-up shooter that's some unathletic white guy. He was able to dunk, and he made 2 all-defensive teams in his career, including that season in 93. He even got a Defensive Player of the Year vote in 93. As much as I did enjoy The Last Dance really did disrespect Dan Majerle. Then you had Kevin Johnson, and he barely played half the season, but when he did play, he was another great piece that the Suns had. He made the All-NBA 3rd team in 92 and 2nd team in 94. Too bad he missed all those games in 93, but even if he played all those games in 93, he would have had to compete with John Stockton, Tim Hardaway Sr., and Terry Porter for the All-Star game. And Terry Porter is definitely one of the more underrated players from the 90s. 2 years later, Kevin Johnson scored 46 points and had 10 assists in Game 7 against the eventual champion Houston Rockets, in that era when hand-checking was allowed. And unfortunately, Charles Barkley let him down. 18 points and 23 rebounds, that sounds nice, but Barkley also turned the ball over 7 times. But back to 93, KJ did put up 20 points per game against a David Robinson-led Spurs team in the 2nd round, and 17 per game in the finals with Charles Barkley leading the way. Then there's Richard Dumas. How many of you have heard of him? He's easy to forget because he didn't play for very long because he struggled with substance abuse problems, and was suspended the previous season because of substance abuse and then the year after. But in the 38 games he played in the 92-93 season, he put up almost 16 points per game. His playoff stats looked pretty but he did put up 15.8 points per game in the finals that year and was the 4th leading scorer for the Suns in that finals. Then there's Cedric Ceballos. He averaged 12.8 points per game while coming off the bench for 28 out of the 74 games that he played that year. He averaged 16.5 per game in the games he started though, and he even got a most improved player vote as he was coming off a season where he averaged 7 points per game and then went up 5 points. And he was 1 season away from averaging 19 points per game and 2 away from averaging 21 per game in back-to-back years with the Lakers in the post-Showtime era, and was an All-Star in 95 and even had a 50-point game during the 94-95 season. And this was not a bad Lakers team, by the way. They won 48 games that year and made it out of the first round of the playoffs. In fact, he and a rookie Eddie Jones were 2 key additions that made the Lakers go from 33 wins in the 93-94 season to 48 in the 94-95 season. Now on to Danny Ainge. He was on the previous season's Portland Trailblazers that also lost to Michael Jordan's Bulls in the finals. Coincidence? I think not. He gave the Suns a spark off the bench as a knockdown shooter, making 40% on nearly 5 attempts per game, which was a lot back then. And he was someone that was known for playing hard and being brash, getting under his opponent's skin. If you were watching basketball back then, you'd think he may have been like Patrick Beverley before Patrick Beverley. That kind of description does kind of sound like him, except Danny Ainge was easily more gifted offensively than Patrick Beverley was, even in that era. Danny Ainge was a starter in Boston and Sacramento and even averaged 18 points per game while playing for the Kings, which we know Beverley wouldn't do even in this era, let alone that era. Now how about Tom Chambers, who finished 5th in 6th Man of the Year voting that year? He was 33 at that point, but he was backing up Charles Barkley. That's why his minutes got reduced. The season before, he averaged 16.3 points per game, which is a dip from the previous years, but he still was a solid starter on a playoff team in 92. And he was only 2 seasons removed from his last All-Star appearance and 3 removed from when he averaged 27 points per game, again, in that era when hand-checking was allowed. And that 27 points per game was a very efficient 27 points per game. He shot 50% from the field. Aside from having multiple guys that can score, the Suns were the 8th ranked defense that year. And Barkley was not particularly known for his defense, but he was no scrub on defense. He just wasn't big enough as a power forward to really anchor a defense. The team as a whole though, yeah, they had to have a pretty solid defensive team to be the 8th ranked defense that year, right? Although Michael Jordan absolutely shredded them in the finals, but I mean, it is Michael Jordan, the greatest player of all time, in my opinion. And I didn't even mention their starting center, Mark West, who sure didn't score a whole lot of points, but he protected the rim for the starting unit and was a tough guy, which gave him the nickname the Hammer. But of course, I talked about the supporting cast, I gotta talk about Sir Charles as well. He's listed as 6'6", but we know he's really 6'4". Yet, he averaged double-digit rebounds every single year of his career except for his rookie year, and was incredibly efficient, shooting 54% for his career. That's the best percentage among the top 50 scorers that are not centers. We've already been over this about hand checking, but how about the fact that there was no defensive 3-second rule until the early 2000s and no restricted area until the late 90s. So yes, Barkley was that efficient in an era where scoring was a lot harder. And Barkley is also responsible for a rule change where you're not allowed to dribble with your back or side facing the basket below the free throw line for more than 5 seconds. Oh yeah, and also Barkley was a really good passer as well. And he was very capable of leading a fast break. In this 93 season, Barkley's MVP season, as mentioned earlier, he averaged 25.6 points per game on 52% from the field. He had 3 40-point games during the 93 playoffs, including Game 7 of the conference finals against the Sonics when he put up 44 points and 24 rebounds, and Game 2 of the finals when he put up 42 and 13. And okay, he definitely didn't do enough in games 1 or 6, but nonetheless, he led the Suns to the best record in the NBA, so he definitely deserved the MVP. The one thing that Charles really could have done better was not shoot as many threes for the fact that he didn't make a lot of them. Sounds kind of like Russell Westbrook or Giannis, right? And of course, I'm definitely taking Charles Barkley over Giannis or Russell Westbrook 1,000 times out of 1,000, but I'm just saying. Shooting more threes than you should for how good you actually are at making them, yeah, it kind of does sound like Giannis or Russell Westbrook, right? But if Chuck just knew to not shoot as many threes as he did, imagine how much more efficient he would have been. But what Michael Jordan did against the Suns team in the finals really does give him a strong argument to be the GOAT. He really took his game to the next level in that finals series, averaging 41 points per game while shooting 50% from the field against the 8th ranked defense that season. So to all you LeBron fans watching this who think that Michael Jordan didn't face such tough competition, there's your reality check. Although my main point of this video is not for a Jordan-LeBron debate, it's more to enlighten you on how good this 93 Suns team really was. Now you might be asking about their path to the finals. Okay, I'll answer that too. So, okay, they did need to go 5 games. Remember that the first round was a 5-game series, not a 7-game series until 2003. And it was against a below 500 Lakers team in the post-Showtime era. Barkley played horrific in Game 2, which had the team down 0-2, but then they won the next 3 games. In the second round, this was a little bit more challenging than the Lakers were, or how challenging the Lakers really should have been. David Robinson and the Spurs, who I mentioned when talking about Kevin Johnson, that team won 49 games. And the Admiral was not their only All-Star that year. Sean Elliott was an All-Star that year as well, but I know no one remembers and probably hardly anyone cares. And there was also Dale Ellis, who was a former All-Star with the Sonics, a guy who even once averaged 27 points per game. He wasn't anything close to that in San Antonio, but still gave them 16.7 points per game. So that Spurs team sure wasn't just another team. In the conference finals, the Suns faced a 55-win Supersonics team led by Ricky Pierce, who I know pretty much no one remembers, but he averaged 18.2 points per game that year and was their leading scorer. And that team also had a young Shawn Kemp, and this was when Gary Payton was young too, but this was before he became the Glove, and he wasn't an All-Star yet. Despite no one averaging 20 points per game for this Sonics team, they still had the 4th best offense in the NBA because they played really well as a team with 6 guys averaging double digits. And they also had Eddie Johnson, who was not the scorer he was in the 80s, but still able to provide the Sonics 14 points per game off the bench. So that's it for now on this 93 Suns team. So again, 40 likes on this video, and I will do something like this for the Bucks, either on the only Bucks team to ever win a championship or the last Bucks team to ever make the finals before this year. So that's it for now. Again, 40 likes and I'll do that video for the Bucks. And also, if you could please subscribe if you still haven't yet, and if you can hit that notification bell, that'd be much appreciated as well. And I will see you next time. Peace.